All right, let's get to the first conversation now. It's another all-time high for inflation in Nigeria, even though the Naira continues the uptrend at this time. Let's drill down on the numbers now with Kalu Aja, author. Let's talk about your money. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Hi, Ladi. How you doing?
I'm great, but definitely my pocket's not looking too good with the inflation numbers we're seeing at this time. What do you make of these inflation numbers?
Well, it's very, should we say, shocking. 40% food inflation. That's what caught my eye. That just tells you that the trend from last year, 15% growth from 2023 till today. We haven't seen a break in food inflation. It's been going up and up and up for 12 months. I think it's about 15 months on breaking increase in inflation. What that means is that inflation expectation is now baked into the psyche of Nigerians. We expect prices to go up. And because we expect prices to go up, we also increase our prices with replacement pricing. That then creates a vicious circle for inflation in Nigeria, up and up and up, and nowhere inside is going to come down. So massive number right there. Headline is 33 or so, like you said, but that food inflation is a big problem. 40% is unheard of for food inflation.
And I guess one good thing, the Naira is strengthening, at this time. But how come it's not playing into, a softer number when it comes to inflation?
Yeah, because the inflation in Nigeria is not monetary. It's basically supply-driven. There's a fall in supply of food because of the issues we have around food production in Nigeria. So even if the Naira is 1-to-1, or even if we control inflation 100%, the supply of food is what's causing food prices to go up. And we can't fix that with monetary means or with exchange rate stability. We've got to increase the supply of food in Nigeria. That brings down inflation and this food inflation that we're seeing.
And definitely, we keep talking about the fiscal, side of things. We've seen the monetary policy, committee, raise rates by about 600 basis points in the first quarter. We've seen all the action there, also in the FX market. But what should we be seeing, from the fiscal side to actually help with this inflation?
So now it's now a national security issue, which means that we've got to get the security guys to go in there and allow the farmers to do their jobs. Farmers can't farm, so harvest yields are down. That's the very, very first thing there. You first of all have to take away the insecurity before you talk about fertilizers and yields of the crops. It's bandits, it's terrorism, it's internal strife. Fix that. Then medium to long term, we fix the yield, the fertilizers. Right now, no one can farm. So if they can't farm, you can't get produce out. If you can't get produce out, food stays very, very high. Look at the inflation numbers. It's driven by food, 17%. The next guy is about 5%, right? So it's driven by high food prices. Perhaps we start to have a serious discussion about importing food. If we can't make food in Nigeria, let's import food, 90-day window, tamper the prices down. You can't build any economy on 40% food inflation. It's just not going to happen. If rates are 1-to-1 and there's no Gary to buy, Gary is number one item listed that's gone up in price. If you can't buy Gary, but dollar is $1 to 1 Naira, then what's the point of $1 to 1 Naira?
Right, definitely. That's making it quite difficult at this time. But how hard does this new data make the job of the CBN Monetary Policy Committee? How hard does it make it, at this time? We've already done 600 basis points in the first quarter of 2024 alone.
I think what it shows is that we can't use monetary policy alone, right? That's what it shows. Because what will the CBN do? Will they keep on raising rates? Will they now say we're going to raise rates because inflation is going to keep on going higher? There's a point where they stop and say we're killing the economy too much. We can't raise rates to say 35% or 40%. That will be a death knell to the national economy. So he's going to do his part and say, I have done all I can do. Fiscal side, Nigerian army, Nigerian executives come in and help us. It's going to be a two-pack punch right there. He's done his monetary side. Executives are going to come in. We can't raise rates. Raising rates cannot produce food. And the problem in Nigeria food inflation is food supply. It's not a monetary expansion. It's food insufficiency caused by the lack of food output because you have bandits and terrorism in the food growing areas of Nigeria.
All right, let's drill down on some of the numbers a little deeper at this time. We see the inflation rate change at this time. We see headline inflation, that's about 3.02%. That's the amount of change we're seeing versus 3.12% in February. So the rate of change is lower, for March. Same for food inflation, 3.62% versus 3.79% rise in February. Then for core inflation, that rose, in March, 2.54% versus 2.17%. So we're seeing, little drawdowns, with the rates of change. Is that from the MPC's action, actions we've seen from the CBN and the MPC in the first quarter? Is that why we're seeing that little drop there?
I doubt it. So it's increasing, but at a slower rate. But if you look at 15 months, like I said, if you look at 2023 till today, there's been no break in the rise in food prices. So it's going up, but it's going up slower, but it's going up. The problem, laddie, is the expectation of inflation. If I believe that prices are going to go up tomorrow, then what do? I increase my prices today, i.e. replacement pricing. And when I increase my prices, you increase your prices, then inflation then gets baked into this vicious circle. That's the problem. So those rates you're talking about, those the people don't see it. What they know is that Gary price has gone up and their wages have stayed flat. This is the problem. Your wages are flat, but your costs are inflating. So it's a direct punch to you. You've got to decide if you're going to eat or buy gas. And once you have that discussion going on, you don't notice those 1% slowdown in change. What you see is that cost of food, which is 17% and 57% of your budget, has gone up, and your wages haven't gone up as well.
Right, and we also have the termination of energy subsidies for Band A customers. That's still there at this time. How will this impact, the inflation story going forward?
Yeah, so that's a two-pack punch, right? So the A guys pay more, but we hear Dangote is going to bring down diesel costs if he starts to send out his diesel. I think I saw the news article last week of diesel trucks going out. So we might see a drop in diesel cost, but then your energy costs go up. The net effect, we will have to watch and see what happens, right? But overall, what we're talking about is that there's been an increase in cost to the average Nigerian without a corresponding increase in revenues. So consumption is flat and productivity hasn't gone up, maybe via infrastructure development. That's the narrative, laddie. Consumption is flat, costs are going up, and wages are where they are. That's a big, big, big problem for the largest economy in Africa.
And talking about wages, we're expecting a new number, for the minimum wage. The president's going to announce that, come May. But we also have, the TUC, the NLC, they've provided a number over 500,000 Naira. That's about 600,000. How do you see that number? And what do you think is the realistic number that will not also, honestly, stoke inflation?
I'm a capitalist, so I don't like labor unions, but we have to increase wages. I don't even think 500,000 is enough for Nigerian workers. I don't think the problem is the cost. I think how we're going to pay for it, right? If you make it #1 million a month, that's an obscene number. But the problem is that the cost of production in Nigeria has to come down. A way to increase salaries is to reduce costs. If you bring down the cost of generating power, bring down the cost of sending your kids to school, that's also a salary increase. So across the board, the federal government is increasing prices. Look at Nigerian customs. They're using 14, 12 as the exchange rate. Why can't they use 500 Naira or 300 Naira as the exchange rate? That becomes a salary cut, a salary hike, a cost cut to every Nigerian. That's one way you can increase salaries of workers. It doesn't have to be an increase in salaries, but the reduction in cost does the same thing, because we can't afford to pay #1 million. Even though I want to earn #1 million, we can't afford to pay it, but we have to jumpstart consumption in Nigeria. Without consumption, the economy is going nowhere. You can't consume with 30,000 Naira a month as minimum wage. That's a non-starter.
All right. Always great having your perspective. Thank you so much. We're still drilling down on this day to go forward. That was Kalu Aja, author. Let's talk about your money. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Laddie. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll take a break now. When we come back, head to the oil market and also talk about what's happening with food commodity prices. That's in a moment. Do stay with us.